I hope others are going to join us, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome again to week 6. It's flying by. And just remember that it is your last semester. Yeah. And I saw that smile, Mary. But just remember that because of that, that is not your normal semester where if you got behind a little bit or whatever, there was some breathing room where you could excuse my grammar, ain't no breathing room. So we've got to, that's why I am so persistent with what I'm doing. I have to be that way. And Dr. Revis is going to be that way. She's starting it already. She's starting her review. She's starting her review of your task stream and kind of seeing where you are with things in your folio or whatever. And I've seen the messages that she's already communicating back with. Yeah. So we've got no choice but to do that. And while you might not like it now, you will like it at the end of the day when it's all over with, and you'll say, I am so glad they pushed me. Look where I am, because if we didn't, you wouldn't be where you'll need to be at that time. So I said all that to say that we're not going to stop. So, hang with us and just know that it comes with our territory to make sure that you're where you need to be. And you will get work back from me now, and I may not put anything on it, but tell you to go back and look at the rubric again, look at the notes again, because I'm trying to make you think. It's not that I'm making you think about it. And because I know what we've said already. So it's not that I'm just, I don't, please don't take it as, God, I can't believe Dr. Stedman did that, or he didn't give. I'm not going to tell you verbatim what you need to know. I want you to go and dig and find out. Then if you have a question, then you can reach out to me and I will. But we're at a point that I want you to be able to more effectively on your own put some pieces together. So I may send it back with a 0 and say unacceptable, do it over. So bear with me and know that it's for a rhyme or reason. Why is everybody on the bottom not showing me your faces? Rebecca, Michael, Shay, Nari, I'm calling you out. Okay, that's better. I see Rebecca now. I like to see who I'm talking to. And Nari, I know you're there because I saw you when you first signed in. There's Shay. Shay's always busy multitasking with things, but
yep, just getting out of practice, Doc.
That's okay. I knew you were. I was going to mention something you said. There's Michael. But it was going to mention something that you talked about in your assignment. I do want to talk about start out with the Glickman assignment, where you had to read chapter 9 and you had to talk about the supervisory behavior continuum. I will tell you, and Shay was honest with me. Shay, when she wrote it, she said, I still don't know if I understand what I'm looking at, what I'm reading, or those kinds of things. And that's okay. Some things it takes more than one time. I have to go back and read stuff again. And so what it made me do when I read that, I said, well, it's been a while since I've done it. So I went back and I actually pulled my book out. And, I went back and I've reread it myself again to make sure, just to get it to better, to renew my thinking on it. But let's just talk about this for just a minute. What your first, when you first looked at this assignment, when you first looked at it and you read chapter 9 in the book and you read, what did it say to you? What did you get from this assignment? What did you accomplish from it, from just the reading? What is it? What is What are they talking about when they talk about the supervisory behavior continuum? Anybody?
I think for me, it was on relationships and how we've talked before about with perspectives and how what I do is going to affect you and my listening skills, my comprehension skills, as well as just my general compassion or anything of that nature with the other person.
Right. Remember the other week when we talked about know thyself, and then you had to do the Johari window? All of that is embedded in this as well. I hope you can see how all that ties in there. And Nairi was very transparent with us last week. You know, thank you, Nairi. I've thought about some of the things that you've said, because that is a part of knowing yourself. And Nairi says, this is who I am. And, you know, this is, you know, people sometimes may perceive me in the wrong way because of who I am. Well, as a leader, as an administrator, knowing those things helps you better grow into what you have to be as an effective leader. And that's what when I looked at that, you know, it's got and if you've got your books, I'd like for you to just look at it. But there's 10. It says the following list shows the 10 behaviors involved in all of this. And notice when it says a collaborative continuum of behaviors, collaborative means that it's not just you, it's you and the teacher. It's you and somebody else. And a continuum means that it's moving, it's evolving into something. It starts here, and a continuum continues to move. You've got to start somewhere. And so, and Shay had to walk away. But that is what I wanted you to look at. And again, look at what the number one is when you look in there. Number one is listening. Now you've got somebody that, let's just say that there's a teacher that you're having problems with. There's a teacher that there's conflict with this person. Okay? There's conflict. So you've got to deal with it. You know what you think the problem is. You've got already an idea as the leader, but then you've got to pull this person in. And just, you know, and it goes on and it's step by step, sequentially guides you in the process of how to help you resolve a potential problem. And most of the time they can be pretty serious problems. But number one is listening. Why do you think number one is listening? Why do you think it starts out with listening? Now, this is speaking to you as okay, Shay, go ahead.
Because at the end of the day, we all just want to be heard, whether we're right or that we're wrong. And I just learned this in coaching with parents. Like, I don't ever want to talk to a parent about playing time, blah, blah, blah. And they come and say, well, that's not what I want to talk about, but that's what they want to talk about. And if I refuse to talk to them, they're going to be upset with me because they just want to be heard, regardless if I say, okay, I agree with you or not. If I just sit down and listen to them, they're going to be much better than me saying, I'm just not going to talk about playing time.
Okay, very well said. And you know, you think about it, you just think about, and I want you to think about this personally, because many of you are still in the classroom. You just think about, as a classroom teacher, you think about if there are problems or whatever, and you have to go to the principal, what do you want? You want to be heard. You want your voice to be heard. So that as you're growing into administration and as you become the leader, remember that is one of the most important skills that you need to develop. Now, notice I said develop. It doesn't happen overnight sometimes. You've got to practice it. And what this continuum does, it allows you to practice how to become more effective in problem solving. And the biggest thing when you are dealing with a situation, the biggest thing is that don't come in and just say, and I'm guilty of this. As a teacher, I was guilty of it really bad with my students sometimes, especially if they made me mad. I would say, you go listen to me. And I probably pointed my finger, and I probably just strutted my stuff and showed my authority because I was the big dog in charge. And I probably, over my years, I probably messed up with a teacher every now and then. They may have pushed my button, but I tried very, very hard not to let that happen. I tried to have a listening ear. Now, we've talked about this already. When it's not just say, okay, we've got a problem, I'm going to listen to you. It's not just say that, it's how you listen. Nari, I saw that up. Come on, talk about it, Nari. I saw that finger go up. It's how you listen.
It is, because my thing is, I've had conversations with people, I've had conversations with principals, and they don't listen, they're not actively listening, they're just listening to give you a response. And usually it's a response that they've already formulated in their head the minute that you started talking. Mm-hmm. So it's not that they really want to hear what you got to say. They just want you to feel like you've been heard and get it out your system, like you're venting to them. And the solution is usually not where you work together and you come up with solutions. You may have a solution in your head. Hey, okay, well, I think we should do X, Y, Z with this child. But they already have it in well, the child is not bad. You just need to do something different. I don't think that's a good idea. To me, you didn't hear me. You didn't. That doesn't mean that you always have to agree with me. But I need you to actually understand what I'm saying. If I've told you I've done this, 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 and this, but your response is still that's not gonna work.
Yeah, and what did you learn from that already? Moving into administration, what did you learn from that, Nari?
That I need to actively listen to the person who's talking to me and hear everything that they have to say, and then we can work together to come up with something. Having someone listen to you because they think that you're just complaining, that's a problem.
Well, you've defined this whole continuum when you said that, because that's what the continuum is all about. You don't always, you listen, and and even I can remember, Dr. Revis, especially when I was a high school principal, I can remember irate parents coming in, and I would, and they were mad, and I'd shut the door, and I learned how to do this, and I said, okay, I realize that you're upset, and I'm going to allow you to. I said, if these are my rules, I'm not going. I said, you cannot use profanity in here, especially the Lord's name in vain. I won't let you do that. And if that happens, I'm going to stop you. Do you understand that? Now, I'm going to listen to everything that you've got to say. And I attentively listened. In fact, I would lean over like this, because if I give them eye contact or do like this, that lets them know I'm engaged, because you're a part of it. But I said, now you got to promise me this, that if I have to stop you and redirect you, you're not going to get mad with me. You're going to agree with me. And most of the time they would say, okay. And I said, now I'm going to listen to everything you've got to say, but you got to promise me this. When we get through, you're going to listen to everything I've got to say. Can we agree with that? And I wouldn't interrupt unless it would be, something. I would shake my head, I would listen, and at the end I would say, now, are you through? Are you sure? Have you told me everything that you need to say? And when they were through, I said, well, first of all, and I would equate myself with them sometimes. I said, first of all, I am the principal of the school, but I'm a parent too. So, as a parent, I understand how you feel because it's your child. I have a child too. And you know, as I would begin to make those, I could see their shoulders starting to relax. I could see the breathing start to relax. But I didn't learn this overnight, Dr. Revis. It took me, I had to practice this, and I had to mess up a few times, you know, to get to that point. But I did feel like I was, you know, I was a pretty good problem solver, you know, especially after I spent 6 years in a high school. And then when they moved me to the central office and I became an associate superintendent, guess what I had to deal with? I had to deal with all the problems for the 24,000 children for the public schools of Robinson County. I was over student services. So I had to deal with all of those things. So I really had to practice those things. But it goes back to the thing, you've got to have that listening ear. You've got to give people a voice. And if they truly know that you're listening to them, when it comes time, most of the time, they're willing to listen to you. And at the end of the day, you can come up with, we may not agree with each other, but we can come up with some type of a compromise and a solution, you know, with whatever the situation is. Mary, I see your hand up.
I want to ask, what about when there is no solution? I have a teacher who is currently not following board policy. And so we can listen to that teacher, but when it comes to board policy, there is no solution. So what happens then?
Okay, Dr. Revis, you want to chime in for a minute? And then I will,
Okay.
I've said a lot.
All right. Well, if I could put Mary's on hold just for a minute, I want to go back to Nairi. Nairi, I understand what you're talking about. And let me tell you, as a beginning principal, the thing I tried to be was a fixer. I wanted to fix everybody's problems. I wanted to fix all the kids' problems. I wanted to fix everybody's problems, all the teachers' problems, because I was a fixer. And I still am to a certain degree. I had to learn, and I had to really work on it. But I had to learn to stop and listen. And instead of offering suggestions, I learned to ask questions. Because what I was wanting to do ultimately is to get that person talking and problem solving. And I wanted to teach them to fish rather than me always having to throw that line out and reel them. I mean, but like I say, my first reaction is, I want to fix it. I want to tell you what to do, and let's move on. And that doesn't work with people. So there's that one. Now to Mary. Well, Mary, at some point, you know, if your teachers are not following board policy, you're going to have to call them on it. The bottom line is whether they believe in it or believe it's right or wrong or whatever. If they're a teacher in the district, they're bound to follow board policy. And I would explain that to them, you know, this is where we are. It's not just a matter of you not wanting to follow this rule or this regulation or this whatever. This is board policy, and you have a legal responsibility to follow board policy. And what happens if you don't? Then I have to write you up. If you continue to do it, it gets bumped up to the central office.
And that's what I was going to say, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, I always try to look for a win-win. Stephen Covey, win-win.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, and sometimes I just ask people, is this the line you are willing to draw in the sand?
Mhm.
And if it is, go for it.
Right.
But
Okay.
I lost it somehow. Can you hear me, Dr. Stedman?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Sometimes I think people just don't understand that in public K-12 schools, they don't have academic freedom. They have to follow board policy.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes they just may not understand what that means and what the repercussions are. But, you know, if they feel strongly enough about something and they want to draw the line in the sand, then you gotta deal with it.
And Mary, how's your relationship with human resources?
Very good relationship. Yeah.
Just on the sideline,
Mm-hmm.
I probably would talk, if it's somebody at that point, I would say, this is where I am. Can you give me some advice so that if it did
Mm-hmm.
escalate beyond what they would have knowledge of it already, I would go ahead and I would engage them in conversation if it's at that point.
Okay. Thank you.
Stephen, I see your hand up.
I just was going to say one thing that I did whenever I was in administration and there was an issue, I repeated back to the person what they said, and I found that shows that you're, like Nyree said, actively listening and that you're actually hearing what they're saying versus trying to summarize what they're saying and being completely wrong. I've been in situations where I had to have a conversation with my principal about a numerous amount of things, and what I said was taken out of context because she heard it in a different way than how I said it. And so when she digested it, it became something completely different. So I had to find myself asking, what did you hear me say? And I do that as a teacher whenever I'm teaching. What did you hear me just say? So I know where the disconnect is so that I can go back and then repair that disconnect.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Thank you for sharing that, Stephen. Philip?
What I was going to say is my dad's in law enforcement, something I stole from him to use in the school system. What he always does is he says, a lot of times they have that clenched jaw, clenched fist. Parents come in, they're already supercharged on their opinion of what they think's taking place, what they want to see done. A lot of times that I've noticed that I've taken this from him is I ask, from my seat, how can we, or what would you do if you were in my shoes? Or how would you be proactive in this? And what are some of your thoughts regarding this? Because then they're coming in to just express their displeasure. Now you've flipped the script a little bit and so to speak, like instead of it being you coming up with the answers, you say, okay, well, where do you sit on this? Like, what would you have me do if you were in my shoes? And you let them kind of express their thoughts, their mental process on the situation. They start thinking, therefore their anger goes down. And once they get to that point, then you say, okay, I see where you're going. Now, this is what I'm thinking based on policy and procedure, what we have here. I agree with you here, and this is where we can take this. And then it's like the parents have been enabled to be a part of the solution. And any time that parent can leave, just like with teachers, if you empower folks to a certain extent, now granted, you've got to be the authoritative figure in the room because you make the ultimate decision, but you can have, I guess you would say, I wouldn't say it's smoke and mirrors, but it's more of you're very transparent. You allow them to have a voice and you give them a little bit of empowerment. And then you come to the resolution per se on the same grounds and make it seem like it's a team thing. And then when you walk out of there, that parent thinks, you know what, that administrator truly listened, cared. I have an active say as a stakeholder in my child's education. They leave a little bit more, and I think they leave less angry. There's nothing they leave on the table because you've made them think. You've caused them to come out of anger and come back into productivity. Like they're trying to think through your question now because they just came in with a problem. They never came in with a resolution of this is how I want to fix this. It's you've got this problem. I need you to do this, blah, 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 blah. And it's, well, what would you do? And then you put them back in the chair and give them the microphone and let them try to work through things.
Well, and thank you for that too, Philip. And again, everything that all of you have said, that is bits and pieces or components of what this behavior continuum is all about. So, Shay, coming back to your comment, whenever you said, you understood more than you realized you understood about this. It's not something that's going to happen automatically. Again, it's a process. It's a learning process for you as a new administrator. You have to practice listening. You have to practice negotiating. You have to practice, at what point do you say, okay, and you come to the problem solving part, and just coming back and repeating like who was it that, okay, I'm coming back, Stephen, like Stephen said, you know, repeating. So let me make sure that I'm hearing what you're saying. I want to make sure that I fully understand what you're saying. Is that what you said? And then, and those kinds of, you have to practice that. So this whole activity is a way of, when you look at this, you can basically look at it and you can say, okay, this is probably an area that I'm not quite where I need to be, but at least it's a starting point. It helps you with a good starting point, because guess what? As an administrator, it's going to happen. It's not, if it's going to happen, you will have to deal with these kinds, whether it's with parents, whether it's with teachers, you're going to have to deal with those kinds of issues. And going in as an assistant principal, which most of you will start out that way, more of your problems are going to be dealing with parents than it is with teachers. As principals, more of your problems are probably going to be dealing with teachers, because you're ultimately the one that is responsible for what they do or do not do on the campus. But this is just another way of reflecting, self-reflecting, and putting another tool in your toolbox to help you when you do get, to that place. Anybody else before we leave this? Good job, good discussion. Thank you for sharing what you've shared. Let me share.
I just want to say thank you. I do understand it now. I get where where the continuum was. I was thinking something completely different. So it's a good discussion. I definitely understand.
Good, and I knew you would. But you prompted me to go a little bit deeper. So thank you for causing me to dig a little bit deeper with it. Challenging me. I like to be challenged too. And then let's look at what our assignment is for this week. And many of you have already done that, but I'm going to enjoy this conversation. Well, actually, Dr. Revis, you will enjoy this conversation with them next week. I have to do a presentation next week, and Dr. Revis is going to do the class next week, along with taking you fully into your requirements for task stream and your competency folio. She's going to spend a lot of time with that next week. But then, Dr. Revis, if you would be willing to talk with them about their assignment on servant leadership next week. This is from your Northouse book. Let's assume that you will be chosen to lead a school one day, and I hope all of you will. What is servant leadership, and how will you apply your knowledge of it to your leadership style? So be prepared to talk about that next week with Dr. Revis. Also, like I said, along with task stream and some of her coaching. Let's look at what is due this week. Assignment 6 that I've just presented, and then the SIAP that I'm going to go over again in a few minutes is due for my review by the Sunday. Several of you have already turned that in and submitted that, and I've given you feedback, or I've sent it back, one of the two. And I'll go over why I have sent some of it back in just a moment. I want to share with you. Let's go to our helpful hints document. Let's go back again and talk about what is evidence 6, the SIAP. Remember, we said that SIAP is the abbreviation or the acronym for School Improvement Action Plan. And we said that, we've already said that the purpose of the SIAP is that you're going back and all of the work that you've done from the beginning of this program up through the CAP that you've just completed, all of that is to be combined into a living, working document that you can present to your administration and hope that they will take it, or at least portions of it, and then and help to use it to move your school forward, because everything that you've done is applicable, most of you, to the schools that you're in. So it should become a living, breathing, working document. Remember, I told you that that we have identified with each of the tasks, the 6 tasks for the app. So we've identified where you can go and find stuff that's going to help you with that. Task 1, the first 3, there's 3 analyses. One of them is the school data project, and that is task 1. And remember with that, I told you that these are non-negotiables, that these must be identified as topics in this area. You must talk about attendance. You must talk about discipline, standardized test results, benchmark test results, and anything else. I must see all of that in your work. But in addition to that, look what's in red. At the end of each task, I've told you where you can go and find stuff. We said that you could copy and you could paste stuff, not the whole document, but you could copy and paste stuff that is applicable to the work that you're doing. But we also said that you must put the narrative work in there and the transition sentences in there that's going to pull all of this together. Now remember, this is a school improvement plan. It should be comprehensive to the point that there's nothing that you should have to think about or guess. It should be in that plan. So you need to make sure that when you're presenting that to me, that you have covered it all and that you've covered it, to the best of your ability with everything that's going to tell the story of your school as it relates, again, back to that topic for task 1. And again, that is your school data project. That's what every one of your assignments, you've had to deal with collecting data about your school in some area. So you have comprehensively covered your school. Again, put it in the right format. Make sure you follow correct APA. That remember, and I'm going to tell you the one thing that we're finding that I'm having to send back is your headings. Make sure that you're using proper APA capitalization. Go back and review those rules. Make sure that, when I read that if it says there are 2 teachers in my school, that I don't see the number 2, but you've spelled out TWO. And then when it comes to there are 11 teachers in my school, that I don't see the word 11 spelled out ELEVEN, that I see the number 11. That you know when to write the number and you know when to use the number APA style. So those are things that I'm having to go back and spend too much time monitoring those kinds of things that you should already know and you should have corrected. And then task 2 is the second of those analyses. That's your teacher working conditions survey analysis project. And we've gone over again. Those areas in the teacher working conditions survey, you're going back and you're revisiting work that you've already done. However, remember that we said that the most recent teacher working conditions survey has come out, that there needs to be some type of dialogue about the new one versus what it was, and it's just narrative work to talk about, is there a difference? And if there is a difference, why is the difference there? Has there been a change in administration? Blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. Then remember, we said that this is an opportunity to resurvey if you need to, with just taking extracting 4 or 5 questions and resurveying to get the pulse of where things are based on any changes that would have occurred in your school. You may or may not have to do that, but you may need to. But then again, this is where you go back and you find help with task 2. The CAP task 1 through 4, that doesn't mean that you go back and you copy the whole CAP and put it in there, but there's stuff embedded all in the CAP that you can use. And then in the SKIP task 1, prompt 2, there's stuff in there that you can use. And then task 3, your focus group project. Now, this is not just the focus group that you have. There's got to be some narrative work from, and it goes back down here. Let's look at the bottom. From the SKIP task 1, prompt 1 through 2, SKIP task 2, the prompt in there, and the CAP task 1 through 4. You're going to pull stuff in there that's going to be relative, that's going to equate itself or relate itself to the focus group project. These are things that you're going to talk about. Remember, the focus group, when you meet with them, everything that you've done in task 1 and task 2, you're going to share with this focus group. And in addition to that, you've got other stuff that you need to talk to them about that's embedded in there. Well, you're going to tell me about it in your narrative work up here as well. You're either going to write about it or you'll copy and paste it and put it in the right order. But your focus group is where you are meeting with a new group of people. This is not something that you can copy and paste. This is something that you've got to do. And remember, I told you that your focus group, well, it tells you, you know, the makeup of what that needs to look like. But you need to work with. It can be your existing PLC, but you may need to add a person to it, because if you need somebody from the community or the faith-based community or whatever to be in it, you can always take your existing group and you can add somebody to it if you need to. Just make it work so that you can do your focus group project, and you're actually going to meet with them. They're either you're going to talk with them, and you're going to ask a series of questions, and you're going to script those responses, and then you're going to talk about it, or you're going to give them a survey and you're going to interpret the results of that survey. Whatever works for you. And in task 4, some of you are already there. You're going to develop a document that specifies availability of resources, both human and fiscal, people and money, to support the school improvement plan. In other words, what is already there that's going to support all the recommendations from task 1 through 3 of the SIAP. You're going to provide a plan for acquiring needed resources. You're going to talk about what is already there that you can use to help with what you've identified as areas of concern in task 1 through 3. What's already there that you can use? Then what are you going to need? What are you going to need? But then you're not going to talk about just what you're going to need. If there is a need for human resources or a need for fiscal resources, what is your proposal to try to find those resources? You're presenting this to your administration, and it must be something that is reasonable, that you can do. Something that is reasonable. You're not going to ask for a program that costs money that you're never going to get. But now, if you need another teacher because you realize that in grade 6 that there's a problem there, and if there was one more teacher in grade 6 and you can have a smaller teacher-student ratio, then that could be a recommendation. But where is that teacher going to come from? Is there Title I monies to put a Title I teacher in place next year? With the ESSER monies that have come about, can we hire somebody, next year to see if that will make a difference? I'm just saying, you talk about, where we can find the resources that we need to either buy programs buy resources and materials, or to bring new people on board that we need to bring on board. Again, this narrative and graphic organizer will include all the necessary human and fiscal resources for the SIAP tasks 1 through 3. This is going to include the human and fiscal resources necessary to implement the action plan from, and this is where you're going to find help. Remember, you did an action plan in the APSL, evidence 1. You did a growth plan in evidence 2 for the APTEL. You did a marketing plan from the SCIP, and you did the teacher working conditions survey analysis project from the CAP. Now, with all of them, there's plans. You put in recommendations. You go back to those plans and you look at the recommendations that you're going to make, and you tie it in to task 4. Does that make sense? This, again, is work that you've already done. You've done every one of these. You've got to go back to them, and you've got to tie them in to task 4 and go back and reflect on task 1 through 3 as well. And then task 5. And I'm going to go back over these again, but there's people that's at this place, so I felt like I needed to go over it. Once you've done all that, you're going to produce a graphic organizer just like you've done multiple times throughout this program that's going to clearly illustrate the data collected and analyzed that you talked about in task 1, the major strengths and opportunities for improvement identified by the stakeholders, and the relationships that each of these have with specified areas of student achievement. You're going to go back and what you're doing though, you're pulling all of those plans together. All of those plans together. You're not going to have one from the APSL, one from the APTEL, one from the SCIP, one from the CAP. You're not going to have one that you're pulling them all together, and you're unifying them into a final graphic organizer that you're going to present for your final school improvement project. And this is where you're going to find, again, you can find all that stuff already embedded in work that you've already done. I'm not going to go to task 6 yet because that is almost a lesson in itself when we get to task 6. So with that in mind, I'm going to stop share and I'm going to answer questions. Let me ask this question first. For everybody, some of you have gotten past task 1 of the SIAP already. Let me just focus on task 1. That is what I've got to have from all of you by this Sunday evening. Does everybody know what you need to do to get past task 1? Everybody good? Okay. Those of you that I have sent back and told you, that this is what you got to do. You understand what you got to do for me because, and I didn't say a whole lot because I knew I was going to talk about it tonight as well anyway. But if you sent me work and I sent it back today, do you understand now why I had to send it back? Everybody good? Okay. So some of you are at task 2. Do you know what you need to do for task 2? If it applies to you at this point. Task 3, any questions? Rebecca, you understood what I was saying, didn't you? On that when I sent it back?
Yes, sir. I just need to go through those points like the attendance.
Right.
And
What you've got is good. You just
Okay.
need more. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody good? Everybody good on that? And then I think, Philip, you are past task 3. And if there's a question about anything, just reach out to me individually at this point, okay?
Yes, sir, will do.
Okay. Anybody else? Is there anybody else that you've got any questions at all about what is due for this week? Dr. Revis, did everybody submit to you what we asked them to last week so you could get into their competency folio? I can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
I'm
Now,
sorry.
now we can.
I don't think I got anything from Michael.
Okay, Michael, do you know what she's talking about? What we're talking about? I don't know if Michael was with us last week.
Oh, God, and I was at my football game.
Okay.
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 Just send me an email and I'll give it to you today.
Okay, well, Michael, what it is, your competency folio that you've started, you need to go in there and just submit one thing to her for review so that she can get into it and kind of do an analysis of where you are at this point. Okay? Okay, thanks, Michael.
And I don't think I got anything from Stephen.
Okay, Stephen, do you know what you need to do?
Yes, I'm doing it tonight.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Stephen.
And I didn't get anything from Matthew Harris. And I have not seen him online.
Matt
Last
is
week
not
was
here
this.
tonight. Matt is not here
Okay.
tonight. He let me know that he had a
Okay.
event. So, Dr. Rivers, just send Matt an email and remind him. He'll take care of
Okay.
it for you.
All right.
Okay, Shay, you got a question?
Yes, Dr. Revis. So I put one thing in and but do I need to go on and just request it that you can look at all of mine? Is that what you need to do?
Well, I couldn't see
'Cause you
anything
couldn't see-
other than that one. So I don't know what you see on your end, but Erica, what did you have to ask for in order to open it all up for me?
I just put the one in. I think I did and then when it said to submit and then like request comments, I just clicked on the one and it put a check mark beside it and then I submitted it. Did it bring
Okay.
it up for you to see all of mine?
I could look at all of yours. All of yours were opened up. On
Yeah.
a couple of yours, and I think Phillips was like this too, it would only let me see the ones you had specifically uploaded.
Dr.
So
Revis, would it be because of, I think Erica, you were in the first class with me. I
Yeah.
don't think Philip or Shay were in our first class, Dr. Revis, so maybe
Shay
because you had
was.
access.
Yeah,
Oh,
Shay
Shay wasn't
was.
in our first class? Oh,
Yeah.
my bad, Shay, my bad, I didn't remember, my bad. Okay.
That's all right.
You have forgotten Shay? Goodness.
I remember Shay now, but I didn't remember first class, we were with our Zoom team,
Yeah,
it was all new, but I didn't remember.
I don't know, Sasha. I don't know why it wouldn't, but just go back and try to do it again, maybe.
Should I just request comments for all of them so that you can look even though I didn't upload for the other ones? Or you just want me to only?
Well, if you do that, I have to go through everyone and put
Yeah.
like NA. So
Okay.
yeah.
All
right.
Dr. Rev, why
I have
don't
a suggestion real fast. When you went in to request comments, there was like a checkbox at the very top that I was like worried if I checked that one box that you could see everything, but I left it on and you couldn't see it didn't request comments on everything, but it did send it all to you. So Shay,
Okay.
if you go back in and just look at the very top of that list when you go to request comments, it'll say like Emma Willis competency folio, and then under that it'll have all the different things that you can click, like the conflict resolution, blah 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 blah. So just see if that one top one is checked, because that might be what you need to check to send it to her.
Emma, I think mine was the same way. I think it had that one check at the top,
Yeah.
and then I just put another check beside the one that I
Yeah.
was submitting. So maybe that's what
Okay.
it is.
Yeah,
That's probably what you need to do then, Shay.
And Shay, I would suggest that if once you get to it and it's okay, just reach out to either Emma or Erica, and even if y'all need to Zoom or whatever, it won't take but 5 minutes to do that. If y'all need to do that to make it easier for you, don't make it hard for you when you can reach out to them and they can show you real fast.
And I'm sorry that I can't help you any better than that, but we can't see the student side of it. So I don't know. I don't know what some people have activated and what some haven't, but it tells me that the author has not given me access. That's what it says.
Okay.
I think I just gave you access to all of mine. So I'll be the test guy. So if it worked where you can see all of it, I think I just click share all the
Okay.
competencies and just.
Okay, thanks,
Great.
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, are there other questions? That's good. I think everybody, I see, Mary, you submitted yours to TaskStream. I saw that, and it's waiting to be evaluated. The rest of you you finished. Mary, yours will probably be evaluated for tonight's over with, I feel sure. But the rest of them are, you finished. Everybody that's here, you finished. So kudos. Good job. Now, those that I pushed, you can smile at me and say, thank you for pushing me, Dr. Stedman. I got it done. See, I'm not even going to call names. But anyway, thank y'all so much. Any questions before we close out? Okay. And again, you can call me if you need me on anything with the SIAP. Again, I will be presenting in a meeting next week. Dr. Revis is going to come on with you, and she's going to pretty much. I know I won't be in, Dr. Revis. I won't have time to get back before you get over with because my presentation starts at 6 o'clock. So,
well, we're going to party.
Yeah, well, that's what they tell me at the office when I'm going to be gone. Y'all, I have, and I'll share with this. I have a lady that's working with me. You would never know it, but she worked for 30 some years at the being a teacher, assistant principal, executive director at the central office. She retired. She was a board member for 19 years. She gave up that after 19 years. She went back and became interim superintendent for a period of time during a superintendent search. And when all that was over with, she called me one day and I had talked with her about a job. I work with communities and schools. I lead communities and schools. And she said, I had talked to her about recommending somebody for a position. So I knew that she was out. So I called her one day and I said, Mr. Freese, I said, have you thought of anybody for this position that I have? She said, yeah. I said, who? She says, me. And she says, I'm not working at it. She says, I want to work. Well, she has been working for me almost 2 years now. She just turned 80 years old. And she will work circles around most people. She keeps it going. So she tells the office people all the time. She says, when Dr. Stedman goes somewhere, she says, we're going to have a party. She just keeps it so real. But we are having she inspires me. I said that, if she can do it at 80, I guess I can work 14 more years.
Well, I'm not 80, but we're going to party next week.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And you don't know. I might have to stop long enough to just check in because I don't want to be left out. But anyway, y'all, thank y'all so much. Dr. Revis and I were just talking about you guys this afternoon, and we always look forward to meeting with you. And just to see the growth and just to see where you are. We're very proud of you. No matter how hard I am on you, I'm very proud of you. And I can't wait until at the very end when we can say, well done. Well done. And we will be able to do it. We're not going to give up on you, and you're not going to give up on us. Okay. Dr. Revis, anything in closing?
Just good night and have a good rest of your week.
Okay, good night, everybody. Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Right.